Well, how would you define a great place to work? Trust and engagement would be a great place to start when attempting to answer that question. But considering the change in workforce dynamics since 2020, with the onset of the pandemic, a massive addition is underway in the vocabulary of our professional life. Transformation, flexibility, evaluation, security, and privacy are just a few additions to an ever expanding gallery of essential tags that hyperlink to a preferred employer. If you want someone to cook you a meal, you need to let them shop for the groceries. What it all boils down to is choice, whether it translates to growth for the company or the employee. And enabling a choice that expands abilities seems to be a defining characteristic of this technology powered transformation that is currently underway across India. You, the viewer, have made a choice to spend some time with us to get a glimpse of the workplace of tomorrow. Our hope is that we expand your vision of the possibilities that lie ahead. Welcome to Mint Virtual Workplace 2.0, powered by Tata Communications. On the agenda today is a discussion with ignited minds on elevating the digital charter for growth, which can help us all understand the dynamics at play of a digital workplace for 2021 and beyond. I'm your host Gautam Srinivasan, and joining me on the panel are leaders from a variety of industries sharing their insights on the topic. Let me quickly introduce them to you, starting with Pratin Wete, who's the president for the India business at MCure Pharmaceuticals, Vipin Kumar, Group CIO at ISJEC Heavy Engineering, Shamshul Arfin Ansari, Head of IT at Brinks India Private Limited, Abhay Bapna, CIO at Adani Wilmar, and Rajarshi Puryakasta, Head of Pre-Sales in India, Middle East, Central Asia, and Africa for Tata Communications. Thank you everyone for joining us in this conversation today. As you can see, the representation is diverse, spanning pharma, chemicals, logistics, FMCG, technology. So looks like we're spoiled for choice when it comes to views. So let's go around the virtual room to gather everyone's initial thoughts on how they see organizational strategy shift post the pandemic when it comes to a collaborative workspace. Abhay, we'll start with you. Considering Adani Wilmar is one of the fastest growing FMCG companies in India, what's your view of this shift? Abhay, we believe you're in mute, so if you could unmute your mic.
Good afternoon, everybody. The shift is the new norm, whatever people say, but we were forced to change ourselves this problem. So what has happened is majorly areas where the changes happen was the work from home that gave immutability of the laptops, security of the data. Third is ease of communication, the right to communicate between the teams. Another area where
Abhay, your voice is unfortunately breaking up. We are observing a bit of latency when it comes to your answer.
Is it okay now?
If you could repeat your last line, we'll see how we can take it from there. There's a bit of a lag. So for viewers, if you could recap the answer about the shift which you see. I believe there's some audio trouble there, but we'll get back to it. We'll get back to Abhay if we can sort that issue out. We'll come to you, Abhay, soon, as soon as that audio issue is shifted. Vipin, let me come to you. Considering the multinational nature of your business serving in over 90 countries, what's your input on that question of the shift which is taking place? Vipin, you're on mute.
Yeah. Hello, everybody.
Yes.
So, see, this shift which happened in our particular the way people operated during the last 1.5 years was something which was forced upon due to pandemic. Now, this was also a challenge and a great opportunity also, because if you look at the IT industry, for example, they have been using the work from home and all these technologies for a very long time. much before the pandemic came, and they have been operating very successfully. But for traditional Indian companies, it was a first-time experience. So the benefits what they have seen over a period of time are quite huge in terms of whether it is efficiency, whether it is productivity. But the point is that no, it's a mindset which will determine how organizations behave. Once the organizations start opening up, how the organizations will actually operate is something which will be totally determined by the mindset of the organization. Because historically people have been they feel comfortable when they walk into an office. The reason being they understand that when they're in office they are being viewed, and it is perceived that if a person is in office he is highly productive, and the same is true of organization also. So organization mindset is also that if a person is at office he is supposed to be on the job and doing his job irrespective of whatever he is delivering. So those issues are still quite embedded in the organizations. So it is, but the shift is that the biggest problem in Indian industry has been the mindset of people while adopting technology. Now, since these 1.5 years, people have used these technologies, organizations have seen the benefits. So I do believe that going forward, technology usage will be on the higher side. You will find more collaboration happening on the online platforms, and it is an opportunity for organizations to really leverage and change their operating models to ensure that we can actually establish a hybrid workplace where the most critical resources which must be in office to run the business are there, while the resources which can do the job from home or from site locations, they they can continue to operate from there. So I think the opportunity is there. This shift will be there. Now, how much a shift will happen, that will depend upon how the organization will adopt this technology. Gautam, you're on mute.
Abhay, if we could come back to you on the question which I had asked, which is how Adani Wilmar is kind of taking this view on the shift which is happening. What would be your answer to that?
I think gradually in our kind of business, it's not a service industry, therefore people will start coming to office gradually. The one thing which we find is the environment to work is different compared to when you work from home. So that is where that people have started coming to office. Earlier when working home, it was anytime, anywhere, and you are available 24/7. So people want to have a balance between the work culture and the office environment. So that is what I am finding right now. And from security point of view, just once you have offices, you have a better security control, especially documentation, which you collaborate with the different team members. So I'm finding that gradually things will come back to the normal, but it will take some time, and all the people will be more. It's not a social distancing. What we are saying is more of a physical distancing. So by having right collaboration tool, what has changed? We are not socially away, but physically.
Okay, he sees the need for more collaboration tools coming in, and as Vipin had earlier mentioned, there is going to be more digitalization of this process. Abhay, I believe we've got a lag of the audio again, so we'll try and sort out that issue. Meanwhile, let me go to Shamshul. Shamshul, looking at the vast logistics network at play, to provide security-related services to a variety of industries, how do you see the shift happening? I read your post online about timely planning and the right decisions taken for the work from home scenario, enabling the business to run as usual without extra cost. So tell us more about that.
Sure, thank you, Gautam. So, I mean, it's a long planning. I mean, if you consider your plan your infrastructure, you plan your application, you plan your messaging tools, communication tools, and organization basis on limited availability of resources, people, and the culture. Based on that, and one overnight, the decision has been taken. We are going to shift the work uh, from office to home, and then things have changed. And luckily, we have the team, we have the people, we have the resources where we have mobilized our efforts to shift people and provide the necessary IT equipments in terms of your laptop, your connectivity, VPN access, the application, and and various resources, which enable them to work from home. I mean, easily. But but let me tell you, this change was not as easy as I'm able to communicate, because people have faced a lot of challenges in terms of in terms of connectivity, communication with the various team members, information availability, and all sort of things have created challenges within the department, within the team, within the project team. And how we have overcome is quite I mean, interesting fact and story, which we can share it, I mean, as we move along. But definitely, I mean, as we all seen, this vaccination is gaining a momentum, and people are getting vaccinated, and it is a general trend among the people that now we are vaccinated, now we can return to work, and the organization are thinking how we can plan the people to return to work. But I say that it's I mean, people are planning, thinking of returning to work, but between then and now, there is a lot of things have changed. We have seen a successful pilot of how people can be productive while working at home or working from anywhere with the availability of the resources. So here is a new space has been created, which after people are coming back to work, but are going to miss this, and that is where we will have a new kind of workspace, which I feel, I mean, organization will have to think on those lines.
All right. Taking forward what Shamshul said, Rajoshi, I'll come to you. As a digital ecosystem enabler, could you share more details on the shift your customers are seeing in strategies when it comes to, say, a collaborative workspace? Are we now seeing a move from, say, virtual first to a hybrid model of working?
Okay. Good discussion till now. And, I'll just take you a few years back, right? If you think about the enterprises and the way voice was deployed, they would be always in silos. Because voice was not typically, the PBX implementation was never typically a part of the IT organization. It was taken up by somebody else, right? The local person used to do that, and therefore you'd see, different offices or different regions will have different PBXs per se,
Hmm.
and therefore you'd see silos of the collaboration environment being done. Right? That used to work fine when everybody was in office, as Vipin was mentioning. That you come to office, you work, everything is good. The moment you go to home, there is where you need one single platform where everybody can come together. That is not possible with the erstwhile architecture, right? And that's where we are talking about an unified, collaboration architecture where users can have a single experience, and that single experience can be defined by multiple features and functionalities that the platform can offer, with a range of things, starting from, of course, Shamshul talked about security, Abhay talked about the requirement for bandwidths, and he's facing a bit of a challenge at this point of time, and so on and so forth, right? So a whole lot of things needs to come in to ensure that at the end of the day, you give the right kind of experience back to your users. Now, here, one more important thing, Gautam, is that you cannot just say that I have one architecture, because there'd be within the user community there'd be different kinds of business processes that they will run. Like in one, say for example, somebody in sales or somebody in a customer facing will have a very different way of working, and they would need a very different architecture compared to somebody who is in, say, finance or accounting, right? The security requirement will be very different from the person who is facing the customer. You cannot have a single architecture for everyone. So that's what is being realized by the organizations, and there's a quantum shift that we are seeing in the entire deployment and the way things are being taken forward from this perspective.
All right. Coming to you, Pratin, as a pharmaceutical company, you support essential services in COVID. So, how do you see an organizational strategy shift post the pandemic for you, especially in terms of, say, servicing doctors and patients?
So I think pre-pandemic, we were never thinking that we will not be in the market servicing customers or doctors or patients. We always were thinking that we need to be there. And this is a pandemic where we realized that it was not possible for us to even reach out to doctors, meet them in person. And doctors were not also willing to meet representatives for the fear of the pandemic. If you remember in the phase one, most of the doctors also were not getting a vaccine. And now that they have got, also there are death cases with the post-vaccine cycle. So there is a fear factor over there. So first thing I realized that there were a lot of redundancies and wastages which got removed. For example, in our industry, our medical representatives used to meet doctors too frequently and for too short a period of time. And there was impact was only a brand reminder on those calls. Now, frequency of call is not going to be possible, and even now it is not possible. So we have less meetings. Most of the meetings are on digital, and they are for 15 minutes to half an hour with content. Obviously, that also means that I need to prepare our managers to do that. The second type of our platform was a group discussion with a small group, which we call as a advisory boards, right? Strong content-wise. These discussions were never imagined earlier digital. Now we are so comfortable doing multi-city doctors coming on digital, and it becomes at ease because I can now call an advisory board in a notice of a week or maybe in a few days time because there is no air travel required. And then there are very large webinars or meetings where 2,000, 3,000 doctors come in for knowledge transformation. Now that also has become easy, and we got adopted. Earlier we used to keep big stalls for advertising of our content, products, etc. Now all that has become virtual. So I realized one thing, that as a human race, we know how to adapt and how can we take benefit out of the problem. And to some extent, I think as an industry, we have adapted, and I can be also proud to tell you that industry got changed from the medicines for cough, cold, normal medicines. So something which is going to be essential for COVID. So there was a lot of change required, and COVID comes as a peak wave and it goes down. So suddenly I would be piling inventories and it would get unsold once the COVID wave goes down. So how do we plan for that kind of thing? How do we manage this? Well, it was a different level of challenge. So it's an adaptation in different ways, but I think we were feeling satisfaction that we are at least doing something which is important for them. Cannot hear you. We cannot hear you, Gautam.
Sure. Let me unmute myself. And this is just a reminder to our producers to be on top of things when they mute me. So we've heard our speakers talk about where they see the shift happening and giving their examples as an instance itself. So now it's just a reminder to the audience that if they have a question to any of our speakers at the end of the discussion, we could take a few, and you can address it to a particular speaker, the question, and add in your name as well. All right, moving right back to the discussion, Shamshul, Rajarshi, what do you think will be the biggest deployment challenge while enabling a hybrid workspace? We've seen where you see the shift. We've seen some examples as well. Shamshul, as you are a very logistics-heavy firm, for you, what do you think is going to be the biggest deployment challenge when it comes to enabling a hybrid workspace?
Okay, let me go first, and then I'll ask Shamshul to act. Is it fine? Gautam, Shamshul?
Sure. Go ahead, Rajarshi. We'll come to you first and then Shamshul.
Okay, cool. So, when you think about the challenges the enterprises face, right? The first challenge would be the migration itself. That how do you do the migration from the existing architecture that they have to the new architecture? And once the migration has happened, the bigger issue is adoption because while Vipin says that, Pratim said that we are an adaptive race. But with that adoption, also what comes in is a pushback to change, right? And therefore, when you insert something new, people would say that should I really use it? Why not the earlier system? I had so many things in the earlier system. The new system doesn't seem to have one, two, three things, and so on and so forth, right? So there's a pushback for adoption which happens. That's the second one. The third one is specifically from regulatory perspective. Now, if you don't think about regulations, you are under a lot of trouble because, if you look at India and see the duty regulations that we have, it's a very defined perspective that is there for all enterprises. And if you do not meet them, there are, repercussions that can happen, right? And of course, there are a few other things in terms of, how do you ensure life cycle management and so on and so forth. So, from a very high level perspective, these are 3 or 4 things that should be kept in mind, and the challenges that you want to avoid in your deployment process.
All right, Shamshul, what's your reaction? You've heard Rajoshi's comments. From your use case, what do you see as the biggest deployment challenge when it comes to enabling a hybrid workspace?
Yeah, so by and large, the Rajeshri has elaborated more in terms of the common challenges. But I see differently in this way because this typical challenges of like migration from one system to another system will always be there. Adoption will always be there. So the challenge is how we communicate to the user. I mean, how we communicate to our employees. Why and then before we start the migration, we need to have acceptable. I mean, just to give you one of the examples is while we are enabling work from home, we were having no choice but to accept a certain system migration. And the need of the hour is to have this system to continue our business. If we don't use it, then we are lagging behind. We are lagging behind it means that we are going out of the business. So it's a risk, and the communication, the message to the audience, to our employees. What is the benefit out of this system, or moving away, or adopting this technology will bring into the organization in terms of I would say the acceptability of the new process. And the second thing which we need to always keep in mind, we always rush. In this period of time, we have always rushed to implement new technology, new processes. But we should not, or we should remind ourselves, we should always govern under certain compliance perspective. Because we implement new process, new systems, new technology, but then it is being done overnight. As Rajesh highlighted, that we need to have governance perspective in place. So the challenge is a right messaging across the organization, a governance, how we need to implement, and we need to take our compliance teams and confident that what we are doing and what changes we are bringing is accepted, new process, new policies and implemented, and then making user a seamless experience is what will be the differentiator. Because if we don't make this a seamless experience or change, then believe me, adoption will be, it will be only in the books.
That's true. At the end of the day, it's for the people who are going to use that system where the seamlessness of the experience is going to come. So let's see which capabilities and tools are most important then to make sure that seamless experience happens for an organization's hybrid workplace goals. Vipin, let's come to you for that. Which capabilities and tools do you see as being the most important to support the workplace goals when it comes to, transforming to a hybrid workplace model?
See, fortunately, if you look at the tools and capabilities, I mean, tools are today available off the shelf. So I
Hmm.
really don't believe that tools are any challenge to really enable the work from home or the hybrid kind of workspace. Today, if you see like tools like your Office 365 or Google collaboration tools, they offer you a pretty integrated kind of a platform with all video, audio, chatting, meeting, and all that stuff happening. And you know what we used to have as an IT, the problem is that was of business adoption. But fortunately, this pandemic has taken care of that. So the end user has got no option but to adopt.
Hmm.
So the adoption part has gone.
Hmm.
But the challenge for IT has increased. The challenge is how do you really make your IT to be serviceable to the your employee anywhere, anytime, and on any device.
Hmm.
Because once he is going out of his office and he is operating on all the critical applications, how do you secure them? So I think this is where the journey of IT has taken a very steep upturn, and we have seen the adoption of cloud. We have also seen the changes in business process, which has become more digitized. We have seen workflow applications getting adopted. We have seen remote desktop solutions coming in the picture. And we have also seen that see all these things have posed an information security risk also,
Hmm.
because every time a particular employee goes out of the office and operates from his home and carries a laptop or operates from anywhere, there's a critical information he's dealing in.
Hmm.
Especially if you are an engineering company or you are doing work into R&D, this becomes even more critical. But fortunately, if you see over the last 5 to 7 years, the information security roadmap has also matured a bit. So
Okay.
today, so today you have solutions like your DLPs, your dedicated VPNs, your zero trust architecture. So these have all helped to really ensure that the information security piece is taken care of.
Hmm.
See, the major challenge what we find is connectivity, because many of the employees they actually reside in tier 2, tier 3 cities. Now, even if you have rolled out a very state of the art IT infrastructure backbone, an application backbone, how do they poorly connect?
Hmm.
Uh, Many times we see that the connectivity is not there. So we have to do a lot of like coordination with large telecom companies to
Hmm.
ensure that many people got the broadbands or high speed dongle.
Hmm.
So this was one of the major issues. And second issue was how do you really enable the IT assets in the hands of all the employees? Now suddenly you have got about 2,000 people working in office, and suddenly out of that you find that 1,000 or 1,200 people are have to operate remotely. From where will these assets come in? So we, for example, we actually created a policy
Hmm.
whereby we allowed the people to buy the laptop, and the company finance their laptops, and they will pay the company over a period of time. So it was a
Okay.
win-win situation
Hmm.
where the employee gets a laptop of choice, and we get an employee who is working on the asset.
You've given a new spin to BYOD, bring your own device.
Correct. And then, of course, all of this actually requires a relook at your IT policies.
Hmm.
That's very important. And plus the physical architecture, how you deployed IT, that
Hmm.
also requires a relook. So
Absolutely.
I think if you look into all these areas, and you have to do all these things in a very synchronized manner,
Hmm.
so that the customer experience actually goes up.
Absolutely. And I think somewhere it's important here, as you said, the fact that security gets taken care of and you have all these collaboration tools then coming about, that helps congeal a unit. Rajavshi, wouldn't you say that's the case here? Because there's confidence going up when it comes to security, we are seeing more unique collaborative tools coming up, which in turn helps the team come together in a better manner. That's
Absolutely.
that's what that's the magic formula there, right there.
Absolutely. If you're not secure, then both the company and the employee will hesitate in doing those things, right? Because at the
Hmm.
end of the day, as Vipin was saying, if there's a laptop, I'm sure the employee is also using the laptop to do some financial transactions which may be from his personal bank account, right? And if the unit is not secure and the communication that he or she is doing from that laptop or desktop is not secure, there is hesitation on both sides. So yes, security is an integral part in everything that we do from an enterprise perspective.
All right. Abhay, let's come to you. Your opinion on the capabilities and tools most important to support an organization's hybrid workplace goals?
So, if you really look into, so one is the component related to security. Second is the component related to asset because you have provided assets to the employees. Now, those needs to have the latest patch, security details, and everything in place. Other areas to be focused was data leakage and prevention, multi-factor authentication, encryption of the data, sharing of the files. So these are some of the things which we focused, and that's how we work. But if you really see post this scenario, what has changed is you have to redefine your processes. You have to optimize the way you were working earlier, which was manual. Now it is more of workflow based, e-signature based, reducing the less usage of paper. So that is how things have changed, and that is how things will work in future also. So you try to reduce the number of manual interventions at different places and have a better use of collaboration tools for sharing information, or even if the meeting is going on, somebody can transcript is one way of documentation.
Okay. All right. Let me come to you, Pratin. Considering the industry that you're in, how do you think we can engage remote workers or officers at multi-site locations or offices with the appropriate communication? What's your view on this?
First thing we should understand, when the environment is changing so fast and so in depth, the nature of your work is changing significantly. For example, in our case, earlier it was dependent on the frequency but less content. Now I am talking about getting a 15 minutes to half an hour call with a doctor with a lot of content. This requires a preparedness of my manager in the field to handle that kind of conversation with a doctor. That requires a huge amount of training and skill building. Similarly, in office, many times I'm staying with 25% or 20% of the capacity. The people who come are the heads, but people who support are not there. So we had to provide them first is devices, and in our case, what we had done is we arranged the shift of computers to the location of the person's home instead of getting them to my laptop. It was much easier for us because they were staying closer. But we realized that alone doesn't help. So we need to create a lot of our documents onto servers and not on the systems. And a lot of processes needs to get automated. And e-signature is only one part of it. So all this we done in this particular part of it. And I was also realizing in all this name of the game is the people who refuse to change will find it difficult to survive because the change will be very rapid. And that is also another level of orientation which we are telling to people that it's for your survival we need to be able to get adapted. So we can currently tell you that there is no, we are not looking at cutting down the jobs, but at the same time, most of the industries will look into resizing or reshaping. And that orientation of the employees is important, that you need to learn new skills, adapt, and don't refuse to get adapted to the newer ways of working. This is the way we are actually.
Absolutely, that's actually coming more into focus because we are also seeing tracking productivity becoming more focus driven when it comes to the company as well as employees, because there is transparency and unlocking growth won't be possible without innovative strategies in place that enhance employee engagement and productivity. So I think that's those two elements need to be there. But Shamshul, in that scenario, how do you think a unified communication and collaboration in a modern workplace can help key stakeholders address major bottlenecks? We saw Pratin mention a few of those issues. In your opinion, how can those be addressed?
Again, see, we are having this unified communication solution that we have across the organization. People, to understand this solution is only a solution, but in short, it will help in our day-to-day life.
Hmm.
How can, how it can help? It can instantly connect with a colleague by by sending them message. They can have this log of the entire conversation available. And if he's not available at his desktop, an email will come to him. So at least he will come to know who has approached him. So it will help him to become confident on the solution because it is solving his problem. He is not missing any conversation. At the same
Hmm.
time, if you want to have a call with his colleague, team member, or anybody, he can just schedule a meeting. He can dial and then have a conversation. Gone are the days where there was issue with the voice quality, but now we have a high definition voice quality. So this feature is also available, which helps them to have a seamless conversation.
Hmm.
And then similarly, if he can also have this video conference call with multiple people to have more personalized experience. He can
Hmm.
connect with his colleague like he is in person with him, and he can share. We can share all the conversation ideas, concepts, or discuss the problem, and then
Hmm.
come with the solution. He can so all this is available, and the most important aspect is just give me a moment, please. Yeah.
All right. As Shamshul was saying right now, that the seamless experience is still paramount, but again, the security layer is also important here. Shamshul, would you like to sum up your thought before we move on to the how to deal
Yes.
with the security aspect more in detail? You can complete your thought.
Sure. Sorry. The other aspect is that all this conversation and am I audible?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Go ahead.
My This voice is echoing.
Okay.
Okay,
The audio is clear for us, so if you could go ahead and finish up your thought.
fair enough. So all the information conversation is available with him.
Hmm.
So he can make, and all this information is like describable to him. So in short, he is getting a platform which is helping him to which is like a consolidation of all the conversations, all
Hmm.
information in a single window. So
Hmm.
that will, that is a positive side for the management to, for the management and to the employees to to adopt this new platform.
Sure. Sure, but as they say, with great power comes great responsibility. As we see the consolidation, the
Right.
question then I again dial back to security, which is, in the day and age where cyber attacks are rampant and can be disastrous for digital first organizations, the question is, what do
Right.
you do then? Vipin, let me come to you for your views of this. We discussed about, security and other aspects. For you, what do you think are the strategies that you would suggest for creating a secure virtual workspace?
So if you look at the last one and a
Vipin,
half
I
year,
believe you're on mute. If you could start again.
am I audible now?
We
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible now.
Yeah. So if you look at the last one and a half years, uh, these cyber criminals have really had a gala time. I mean, they have if you globally look at a lot of good companies, they had felt the hacking and all that stuff happening, and billions of dollars exchanging hands. So that has actually made the IT world believe that the security which is more traditional in nature, which is restricted to let us say firewalls and antiviruses, you have to go far beyond that. So I'll divide the entire security into two pieces. One is inside out information leakage, other is outside in secure data flow. Right? So for the inside out information leakage, what is the challenge? The challenge is that your employees are there, They are using either a company asset or their own asset. They are operating from anywhere in the world, sending emails, not being physically monitored. So how do you really control that? Is the critical information being compromised? So to prevent all these things, fortunately, the information security world over the last few years has actually matured, and we have got solutions like your DLP, then your data classification, data encryption, domain blacklisting, controlled internet access as per company policy, blocking of the write capability of USBs, and the like. So what this will do is that the moment you start sending deliberately or unknowingly any information, that gets trapped by the DLP engine, and either the information gets quarantined, or necessary messages go to relevant people that such and such information has been compromised. So the fear of these technologies, apart from their effectiveness, it serves the trick. I have seen that once DLP was implemented, I used to get calls even from a very very senior level that by mistake I have sent my CV to my personal email ID, and I'm so sorry for that. So this kind of work culture impact these solutions have had, and in this world where people are operating out of everywhere, not only from their offices, these kind of solutions are a must-have. Now, when I talk about the outside in, that is how the outside world is interacting with you. I think it is very important because, as I said, that a lot of hackers have made gala time for them. So organizations have also post this pandemic really matured, and today you have got like your secure VPN tunneling is there, so that people who are actually on your VPN are able to connect it. Then implementation of zero trust architecture, then two-factor authentication, then automatic generation of tokens, then shifting from traditional signature-based AV solutions to your more AI and ML-based solutions, which not only give you protection against external threats, but also keep on analyzing the end user behavior. So all these things put together will give you a good amount of security, both for inside out and your outside in data flow.
Okay, Abhay, you have anything to add to this as to what strategies you would see for creating a secure virtual workspace? What would you suggest?
No, so in this, already my colleague already said. So one of the factors which you have to consider is internal training, awareness. It's a continuous journey. External threat you can take help of expert who are domain specialists. We already have in our. So that is one component. But internally, I feel that we have to make our employees more aware. What are the changes which has happened in the security environment? How the cybersecurity impacts their organization, and what to click and what not to click. And so that awareness is, I think, is more important within the organization. And definitely, I feel that we have to take help of experts who are domain specialists, who work for multi companies, and who are proactive in monitoring, taking corrective action, and ensuring that the issue gets root cause is identified and the damage is done to the minimum possible.
Okay. Rajarshi, let me bring you in here to kind of gather all these points and see what strategies can be effective. We spoke about a unified communications platform, but then there is also security, and there is also security for individual communications tools. So bringing it all together from a security layer aspect, what strategies would you suggest?
Okay, thanks for that, and Abhay, thanks for sharing your last point. I wouldn't kind of absolutely I would agree to that that you should look at a professional to kind of do your security. Security is it should be secure by design. Everything should be secure by design. Security is something which cannot be bolted. It should be built in, and a lot of times what happens is that enterprises look at security, which is then kind of patchwork and bolted kind of thing, and not built into the entire design framework per se. Right? So if you look at the security of today's world, and specifically from an unified communication perspective, where an employee is talking to a customer, and say that employee is a bank employee, and they're talking to a customer, and he or she has a view of the account. right? You can take pictures, right? If you want, somebody asked the question I just saw that you can take a screenshot. Let me take it one step further. You can actually take a picture from your phone. Who's there to stop you? But then there are solutions today which we have implemented, which can actually take charge and control of that, right? Kind of stopping somebody to use the print screen is easier because you can actually control it through a VDI or through DLP, as Vipin was saying. And sending the information again can be done through data classification and various other methods. But if you're using an external device, what to do is where the complexity increases, right? And we've been able to do that for customers. So the point is that yes, the entire ecosystem is kind of emerging in a very different manner, both UC and security, and you need to kind of be at par, if not ahead of the curve, to ensure that you're giving the right kind of service back to your customers and also to your employees. If you kind of fail in either of them, or you are step behind, then you can have repercussions which may not be good for your business, right? And the good part is that we, as there are professionals who has seen a lot of deployments, who has actually done it, and has happy customers, who can actually come and tell you, hey, if your environment looks like this is what you should do, and take it forward from there. You don't have to go for all the bells and whistles. You have to actually go for the ones that make sense. Let me give another example. One thing that we did not talk about. When you think about voice, one of the biggest issues for a lot of large companies is the frauds that happen on voice. For example, if you have a voice architecture, it can be used to call, destinations which are extremely costly, or numbers which are, premium numbers, right? Or you're sending SMSs, to places which are costly places, right? Those kind of voice frauds or SMS frauds happen a lot for a lot of large organizations, and you cannot kind of stop that with manual intervention. There is where you need AI ML to come in and the engine to actually look at and say that what is fraud and what is legitimate. And that is, again, you cannot do it with small scale. If you have a larger scale, you'll be able to understand, okay, this customer is not supposed to be sending SMSs to Senegal or making calls to this number, right? And if that's happening, there has to be a fraud. So call up and stop, right? So those kind of things also come in. So this is an interesting world, and I'd say that it's emerging the way the way it's emerging is different, but we are all learning with it, right? And I'm sure this is something that we have to keep step up with and kind of run with it.
It's always about context, right? The more data you have, the better decision making it can enable for you, which is true. But we're almost running out of time. So let me take a quick question from Pratin before we come to summary statements, and maybe we could take a few audience questions after that. And just a reminder to the audience, you can use the Q&A section of the chat, which you can see on your Zoom app, and that will be easier for us to refer to. And if, of course, you could mention your question and the panelists you want to specifically address that too. But coming to you, Pratin, in your opinion, what digital initiatives need to be taken to ensure greater adoption of collaboration to sustain productivity? Because we spoke about this, where you spoke about the challenges of getting everyone on board. But if the value of collaboration does get enhanced and you manage to convince it, there is the benefit. But the question is, how do you go about it?
On a completely different scale, what I'm thinking we are losing out is informal coming together in the office environment.
Okay.
Because that has its own benefit as well. Everything cannot happen virtually. So if that is left aside, I think that is very difficult to get in. What we have done is we have focused significantly on the employee skills development and a customer's reach. They are the only two things which we are focused right now. Not necessarily it's the best of the environment, but within the skills development, as I was telling some time back, we were looking into getting from the quantity to the quality of the discussions, getting the thorough knowledge is extremely important in our industry, because the way we are talking. So we are utilizing this time to do a lot of knowledge upliftment programs for all our managers and employees, so that they can handle the customers' discussion much better than what they were doing before. Also, we are training them to manage longer discussions as compared to shorter discussions. And at a doctor's level, I think we have hugely working on enabling their skills to connect digitally, to continuously learn new knowledge, get them the right information, right products, getting the platform where their questions can be quickly answered, creating a different, departments in our company which can specifically only handle the doctor queries which were not there earlier times, because a lot of things becomes head office driven now than necessarily the remote person. So I think there is a change, and I'm not sure we are still at it. By the time third wave comes or not comes, I think by that time we should be able to adapt significantly more.
Let's see if that is the case. Let me ask all of you to look into the crystal ball, therefore, and assess where do we go from here, now that we have kind of gotten a lay of the land in terms of challenges, in terms of strategies. As lockdowns go away, as people come back, the hybrid work model is emerging as a viable option. But broadly, how do you see things for the collaboration aspect of the workspace? Vipin, we'll come to you first, then we'll get summary statements from everyone else.
So, I think post the pandemic, as I said earlier, this is an opportunity for the organizations to really change. Why I say that is because, today if you look at our whole organization or our whole country for that matter, with the second wave gone, almost gone, our attendance in office is still 33% to 50%. In some cases, 33%, in some organizations, 50%. We're still not 100%. And people are talking about the third wave. I hope it is proven to be wrong. Now, so that means that we are not out of the pandemic. Pandemic is here to stay. If it is here to stay, then this hybrid workspace is also here to stay. Now, point is, if it's a de facto reality, how do I make the most of it? So, to make the most of it, let us understand what are the challenges out of it. The first challenge is people. Now, see, a person who comes to office is confident that he has punched in and he is present. Now, the way what he has worked, how he is measured, these are secondary things. This will possibly come at the time of appraisal, that what have you done whole year. But the point is, he has punched, he is in, so that means he is working for the company. He is happy, his boss is seeing him, his colleagues are seeing him, he is on the desk or he is not on the desk, he is in a meeting, so something is happening, he is happy. And from the organization perspective, they say, yes sir, everybody is coming, he has not taken leave for the last 6 months, he is very regular, he is a very, very hardworking guy, irrespective of what he has done.
So more transparency.
Absolutely. The story what he has done comes at the time of appraisal. But see, the point is, it gives you mental satisfaction that you are in office, so you are productive.
Okay.
Now, this particular pandemic has given the organization and the employees both the option to change this. The organizations have learned how to measure employee productivity when he is not physically seen. And the employees have learned how to interact with the system sitting from home and still showing that you are productive. So these are more of mindset issues which for a period of time, I think companies and employees have very well adopted. Okay. So I see that going forward, because in our case, take for example, our MD said that since people are going to operate from home, generally people take about an hour or 2 hours to reach office in the morning and then at the same time coming back, given the state of affairs you have on the traffic side. So they say that why you can't plan for a 120% efficiency in your work. 100% you do what you are doing in office, and 20% more you give me because you are not traveling.
Okay.
And then we also had an employee measurement tool, that how much of a time a person spends on what kind of drawing, what are the benchmarks, how much is offset. So what we have seen is that the model has worked. Now, if you add to this that the fixed cost, your rental cost, your electricity cost, AC cost, water cost, and admin cost, all can also reduce, then this can become a viable model. But the
Okay.
point is, the organizations which will break their mindsets and move into this new paradigm are the ones who will benefit more. But irrespective of that, I believe that going forward,
Hmm.
we are moving into a situation where employees will definitely demand that they want to carry their office on their laptop or on their mobile, and they want to have all the critical information on any device, anytime, anywhere. And
Fair
this will
point.
be enabled maybe now, maybe after 2 years, 3 years, but this will happen. Surely it will happen for sure.
All right, we'll add mobility to the list of words which we mentioned earlier in terms of expanding vocabulary of the
Absolutely.
virtual workspace. Let me come to you, Shamshul. What's your view on the future of the workspace?
With them only 1 minute, I may need to leave. I have a next appointment at
All
5.
right,
So,
Pratin, if you have about a minute to spare, if
sure.
you have a view on this, then we'll come to but then we'll come to Shamshul and we'll take you right now.
I think in my view, we are not yet settled with the change. So still there is a learning curve, and we need to adapt. We are still this change has just hit us, and
Hmm.
we are just responding. The
Okay.
future state of the affair we would get to see possibly 6 8 months down the line. I and I feel like even if hypothetically pandemic is completely over soon, we would not leave away the learnings which we got in this couple of years of pandemic learning. And in the future of our business is going to be a hybrid model only.
All right. Thank you so much for your view, Pratin. We'll let you go for your
Thank you.
appointment. But again, a black swan event. I'm sure a lot of strategies went out of the window and a lot of new strategies came in. Shamshul, your vision of the future of the workspace from here?
Well, is this hybrid workspace will lead the change and will be it's a future. And along with this is cloud technology will drive this change because I mean, as we have seen, employee doesn't want to restrict themselves only with the company provided laptop.
Hmm.
They want to operate from any device, be it mobile, tablet, or laptop or desktop, and from anywhere. So, and the information which he is working is should be available across all devices seamlessly, so that his work is remain uninterrupted.
Hmm.
And regarding the and regarding coming back to office, it all depends organization to organization how they plan. I mean, 2 days a week, 3 days a week, or vice. I mean, how they see. But the this opportunity of hybrid workspace is going to be here at least for some time till
Hmm.
we are sure that we can gather all together. All together without any what is called restrictions.
Hmm.
If we reach at that level, and we need to analyze. I mean, whether we want to return to work. But
Hmm.
irrespective of that, this communication mechanism, this unified communication
Hmm.
and a platform will become the integral part of our life, whether we are in the office, whether we
All
are
right.
traveling, whether we are away from office.
All
So
right.
it is the
Unified
future of our life.
communication is the future, according to Shamshul. Abhay, we'll come to you, and after that, we'll come to Rajarshi. Abhay?
Yeah, I think it will be hybrid, which will continue. But at the same time, many things will change, especially in the communication area, security area, and that is what I feel that these are the things which are going to change. But hybrid will stay, whichever whether COVID remains, not remains. But if you really see Western countries where work from home was very common, now it has increased. But similar culture will come up here also, and the combination will work. That is what my belief.
All right, Rajarshi, coming to you for the final summary of the future of the workspace, bringing all of the points that we have discussed together. Where are we headed next?
Sure. I absolutely agree to all the points that has been said till now, and I just bring one mix out here, which is you as a customer. You as a customer used to buy on Amazon or Flipkart or Myntra or wherever you used to buy online because it's easier. You as a customer would also go to a white goods shop like a Coma because sometimes you want that experience, right? Now, as a customer, if you can get that experience from home, I'm sure you'd love it, and that's what is happening today. You can actually buy from Chroma online, or you can actually go and buy from a jewelry shop online. So you as a customer, your the way you buy has changed, which means that the company has to also change. Now, if I quote myself as an employee, therefore hybrid is here to stay because my customers would demand a virtual plus a physical going forward because that's easier. As Vipin was saying, I don't need to kind of drive to a Chroma or to a jewelry shop like Tanesh and buy from home. I don't have to drive. I don't have to find a parking spot, which is the bigger issue in most of the tier one cities, right? So that changes the entire concept of the way customers are engaging, and therefore employees has to also change, and that's where the entire enterprise strategy will change to hybrid going forward. So I see that hybrid is here to stay.
All right, the hybrid world is here to stay. The hybrid workspace is here to stay. That's the last word. Let's get in some audience questions before we wrap up the conversation. We got one coming in from Mr. Balasubramaniam, and his question is that while a physical building does not make a company culture, he wonders how the impact of a hybrid workplace will be on the company culture. It could hurt, according to him. So how do you make sure the company culture remains robust as the workplace transforms into a hybrid work culture? Rajarshi, you want to take this?
Sure. So, women kind of touched upon this, right? That employee engagement, specifically in this period, becomes extremely important. Whether it is to understand the employee's productivity gains that they have and how they can then measure that. And of course, with that also comes a bit more responsibility on the manager to ensure that he or she is checking with the employees a bit more, right? Culture at the end of the day is driven by people. While the company has a culture, it has to be driven by people, and that people is specifically top down, right? Your managers will drive that at the end of the day. Just because you're working from home doesn't mean that you can keep calls at 10 p.m. Because you don't have anywhere else to go in the COVID period is the wrong culture, right? And digital can do that with you, but if you bring in that human element wherein you say, I respect your time, I respect what your family time, and just because you're not going out in COVID times, you're not going to do calls beyond office hours, is something that will be driven from the managerial and the culture will be actually driven from people and not anywhere else, right? So I really believe that it doesn't really matter whether you're working from office or you're working from home. If you have the culture ingrained in the people that this is how we'll kind of behave with our employees and with our peers, per se.
All right. The next question is about how IT leaders can work together better with, say, HR and management leaders, because the idea is that the right strategy for hybrid workspace is about making the employee experience better than the technological problem, according to the question posted. And I'll ask this to Shamshul. We discussed about the seamless experience. The question now is, how do IT leaders work together with HR, management, and various other C-suite units, which if they're operating in silos, how do you break down those silos and make sure that they're all working towards making the employee experience better and not just focusing on the minutiae of solving a technological problem?
Yeah. So, currently the IT is become, nowadays, IT has become an integral part of all the support functions in an organization. Be it HR, be it security, be it operation. Finance. So it's become an integral part of the organization to support the business and operation to achieve the objective. and people are one of the key aspects of the organization where they play a critical role in terms of motivation, keeping them engaged and driving values. These are the key factors there where we need to come together, come up with a strategy or a platform where we can connect with them, listen to them, hear them, and all this with the help of the technology and the solution we can achieve and then bridge the gap. So
All right.
this is what I feel.
All right, let's take in one last question. This one is from Sahdevan Vijayan, and his question is that when people can work from anywhere, how do you approach the privacy and security concerns? And especially from a legal and compliance side, how do you view this question? Vipin, we spoke earlier about the bring your own device methodology of working. How do you assuage privacy and security concerns to employees when they raise it? When you say that, bring your own device, and also to your stakeholders as to assuring that from a security, compliance, legal perspective, everything will be above board.
But this is where, if you say a lot of end user training is also coming in the picture as to what all they can do and how they can do. So we have engaged into a lot of end user training on this, apart from changing the IT framework also, IT policies also. And third, of course, is technology deployments. Technology deployments today allow you to use the same device for your personal means as also for your official means without each interfering into each other. So today I have the logs for what a person is doing for his official work. But at the same time, since he is now buying that particular laptop over a period of time, he would like to operate his bank accounts also, to which we should have no information. So all these policies we can reconfigure on your devices to ensure that your privacy is taken care of. And on the compliance side, as I said, that all this can be taken care of by the implementation of good IT policies and end user engagement. The more you train them, the more you tell them how to do it, the more effectively you use technology. So these points can be easily addressed.
All right, it's all about orientation. That's all the time we have for this conversation on the Mint Virtual Workplace 2.0, powered by Tata Communications. Now, these insights on elevating the digital charter for growth, I hope have helped us all understand the dynamics at play of a digital workplace for 2021 and beyond. For that, I'd like to thank all the panelists for joining us on this talk and, of course, sharing with us their experiences and lessons. And thank you so much to our viewers as well for tuning in. This is Gautam Srinivasan signing off.
Thank you.